Hey guys, this is your average esports podcast, episode 25. This time, just all about Dota 2, all about TI9, which is happening in a few days from now in China. First TI in China, which is a symbol of the times as China slowly takes over the world, slowly takes over everything. But unlike other game devs, Valve has never actually stressed that they were morally superior, except in the case of match fixing in CS:GO. But outside of that, they've never really done it, so I can't really be that. I can't really say they're hypocritical in that sense.
Well,
Unlike my boys at Blizzard who always standing on that moral high ground, but then kind of just ignoring everything that's happening in China and all that shit. But moving on, right? I don't. This is actually about esports, and so we're gonna go with TI9, and we got a lot of different ways to go about this because we haven't talked about Dota in a while, right?
we haven't talked about Dota in a while, and I guess the summit happened in between too.
I don't
Not that
even
the
know if we
summit is
talked
really.
about the last major. Did we even talk about Epicenter?
No, we did talk about the
Okay,
last
talk
major.
about
We did
Epicenter a
talk
bit.
about the last
Okay,
major,
yeah.
yeah. But we didn't talk about the summit. Although summit again doesn't really mean too much. It was only really
actually, I didn't even watch it this time because I don't think the teams were
yeah.
that good.
Wasn't really that relevant either. It was barely entertaining at best either. No, but the TI is coming up, and first of all, this is a side note because this isn't really relevant to the competitive side of things, but this is the first time that we've had like 31 in talent, 31 talent people, whatever you want to call them.
31
Yeah,
in the broadcast.
yeah, for the
Well,
broadcast.
not technically the broadcast. I think Hotbit is there, but is he really gonna be on the broadcast?
Well, he's not going to be on
I
the
feel like he's gonna
broadcast
be like in
itself,
the
but
back end,
no, yeah, he's going to do a lot of with the content, which I'm pretty sure
like he did
Hotbit
last
is
year
also going to
too.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's been doing it for 3-4 years now, I think.
yeah. You can always tell a Hotbit video from another person's video. It's
Pretty
really
much.
obvious.
He helps a lot with just making up content as they go along. But I think it's really cool that they do all of this because um, I think it's really important that TI, as much as it is the best, like it has the best teams in the world, it should also have the best talent in the world. And previously, it just didn't. Sometimes people were like, there were numerous very famous people left out
Some people
for
were like ignored.
yeah, just bringing in like random players. I get the appeal of having pro players at this event. For example, having Gunnar, having Febby, whatever, BSJ, whatever. I get the appeal of that, but no offense. For example, when they brought on March last year, that was just awful. March was clearly just not. Or was it 2 years ago? I don't even remember right now. I think it was last
He
year
wasn't
actually.
like I
Um,
respect him as a Dota player, but like he wasn't. He couldn't like being a good Dota player. He might even be a good Dota mind, but like having that and like delivering on that on broadcast are different
yeah,
things.
even if I respected his opinion, which by the way I do, right? I respect his opinion. I would like to listen to him at some point or in a certain frame, but him on a panel just felt off. He was struggling a lot just with basic English too, which again, like no offense, but it's just something that you can't really have at the scale of an event. So I'm really happy that we have about 99% of people that have been proving themselves over years, with Gunnar being the only notable exception, but even he, I wouldn't be too worried about because he just gets along with like this like NA brotherhood of like Kyle, Grant, and BSJ. So I don't care too much about him. So this is just really cool. Side note: this is one of the reasons why I'm really hyped about TI2, and I think this sort of sets the tone of what we can sort of like expect from a broadcast perspective. That we can pretty much expect it to be the best broadcast. I bring this up also, by the way, because this doesn't necessarily happen always at the best event of the year. I mean, TI itself, but also obviously we have in CS Starletter that may or may not go back to inviting Anders and Moses for
And
the
Thorn, yeah, those three.
and Thorn for the major, but the announced talent was a little bit lackluster too, and I think in esports we have that problem in general that just for random politics reason people just get left out.
Yeah, like it's way more it's way more problematic in CS:GO just because like famously the Face It Major had a chicken on the desk rather than a broadcast than an analyst, which is basically like
Yeah,
the entire problem there. And maybe this is why TI has so much of everybody because they're like, oh look, CS:GO is doing the opposite of that. We need to do the opposite of that. And then they made the CS:GO majors look like shit in comparison in a sense, like in that particular sense, because like for me, TI is the reason it has so much more prestige than a singular major, and it isn't because of the prize pool. I don't think it is personally. Like I think the prize pool helps, but like I'll put it this way: TI1, TI2, TI3, those were like only a few million, right? And that's not that much further away from the majors we have now in CS:GO. But in terms of prestige, I think I still hold those higher than the current ones because those became like an encapsulation of the competition, the game, and its entire community. And
Yeah.
you can't be the encapsulation of all that if you're missing like half of the best talent in the world.
No, for sure. Absolutely agree. And this is and in addition to that, and I guess this is just something that can now transition into the whole like podcast. Like the format, I think, is also something that is really important about these events. What I really like about TI and I know in CS people often bring up, oh, I wish I had like a TI in CS, and I agree, but not even with the prize pool, but rather just with the format. Imagine having a celebration of CS across like 2 to 3 weeks. I know that the major technically is across like 3 weeks, right, or like
Man,
four
it
weeks
doesn't feel
even.
the
But it
difference
doesn't
between
feel that way
it's
because it's like
so
there's just these
different. It's like
stages. It's so different. You have these stages, so basically you have, oh no offense, but some trash teams playing against each other, right?
yeah,
Then okay teams fighting for like a top 8, and then it's just like single elim. And it's like these best of one Swiss group games as well, only one best of 3 for advancement or elimination. And here you have like massive round robin groups, best of 2, and then double elim bracket, best of 3 all the way. Everybody goes to the I guess first round is best of 1 in the low bracket, but still, everybody gets to play on stage 2, and it just feels so grand, right? It just
yeah.
feels so big. Every
It's on
team
a
that gets
such
to
a
play
bigger
on,
scale.
yeah, it's so different. And this is what I wish for the CS scene. There's something like this, not even in terms of prize money, but just in the scale happens, because it just feels like real. It just feels like an actual festival of like celebration of the game. And
Yeah, like
but oh yeah, go ahead.
my essential problem with the difference between TI and a CS:GO major is they spend so much fucking time, and I mean so much fucking time on the middling and weaker teams. Like whereas like in TI, it's over in like a week max.
Yeah.
All the round robin things, but they still get that playoff game in the double elimination bracket. Whereas like in CS, like you don't get like it's just like I'd say like I'll put it this way, like all the shit I want to watch is usually in the playoffs, and for TI that's like 2/3 of the fucking tournament.
Yeah.
Whereas like in CS:GO that's like a fourth of the entire tournament, and which is the playoff part, which is what I really want to watch. Like that's such a it's so much better watching TI than it is watching a
and
major.
and also it's so funny. And I mean, maybe you can't really argue this way because results might have been different if had the format been different. But imagine if all the previous big Dota tournaments, majors and TIs included, didn't have that format where everybody gets to play on stage at some point, so everybody makes it out of groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing. Like, would we even have all of these underdog stories that we're celebrating now?
No.
I actually can't remember all of the underdog stories, but I for sure know back when OG won their first major, they literally came from the lower bracket because they placed like third or fourth in their group, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of thing that just doesn't happen
Yeah.
in CS, where like your story can be done in like a day. Like
Mm-hmm.
these ESL tournaments, which I like, by the way. ESL does a great job at CS, but still, teams get eliminated within a day or 2 days, and that's over. And then you just like almost just the same teams over and over again in like the playoffs, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can go week after week, and you can have the same 4 to 7 teams in the sort of like semifinals or like in the playoffs. And Dota just feels so different because you just have so much more. And this one tournament feels so much bigger than like all these majors combined. Whereas in like CS, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some majors feel even more lackluster than like just a random ESL event.
Well, some majors are worse than an ESL
I mean, yeah,
event.
some majors are objectively worse.
I'll straight up say it. Like I think ESL one Cologne was like 4 times better than the Face It major, 5 times maybe.
And even that tournament pales in terms
I'm not
of
even talking
format,
about hyperbole.
right?
I literally think it's like that
No, I
much
agree.
better.
I agree. Yeah, but yeah, again, but even that tournament, ESL and Cologne, pales in comparison to TI when you compare like format and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, this goes back to obviously Valve has the means to do this. Valve has the means to or put on this event without any sponsors or with little to no sponsors, where we can dedicate literally like 45 minutes on a draft or whatever. No ad breaks, nothing. We could just play Dota, content, Dota. Um, I just wish CS had that.
Yeah.
Don't even care about the prize money really. I just
I,
want that.
I also like I haven't like followed the entire discussion, but I'll go ahead and say I feel like because the other weird thing about TI is like everyone's like, wow, that prize pool is ridiculous. But what about the tier two scene? And then like they go into this weird like socialism aspect, like, oh, what if we took the prize pool and split it across the entire year to these small teams? I'm like, listen, I guess you could do that, but do you guys not remember like 4 or 5 years ago there was this thing that Valve used to do called tickets and compendiums for the small tournaments and these online tournaments? Like that's literally the answer. Like I don't.
That is the answer. And it is the fairest answer too, because then people actually get to decide where the money goes. Because just taking money out of the TI prize pool, I think, is wrong. Unless people were aware of it, can even choose. Like, I know there's people that if they spend money on the compendium, it's because they want to support TI as a
Or they
tournament,
want the
right?
shit out of the compendium
And
too.
and, and,
But yeah,
and obviously, I mean, they also want the shit, but part of it is just knowing that you're pushing this tournament to be bigger than whatever the last one or whatever.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I think I mean, and again, I guess we could spend like a whole show on this too. But yeah, the fairest and I think the best and most obvious choice is just to go back to that system that we had in the day when every tournament can have its own in-game ticket, own in-game compendium skins or whatever. Like MLG Columbus, one of the most memorable tournaments, literally happened because of that.
Yeah, like I don't see what the problem is with that. Like I still don't like the only answer anybody ever gave me was like the one on Twitter is like, well, it's about power. It's like they just don't want to give these organizations power, and I guess I was like legitimately the only thing I can think of that might work like as an argument.
I think it also adds a little bit unnecessary competition against Valve because ultimately Valve wants to have the compendium with the sort of like best skins and best sort of like reward. And if you were to take that away from Valve, especially now that they have the subscription model where they have Dota Plus is running all year too, by adding sort of like third party compendiums and like all of that, they would probably compete against that. Or they would effectively compete against themselves because then they would be forced to give some of that money towards other people, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
I still think it's better than what we have now. So it's like,
well, I agree. I
yeah, it's
agree. I
like,
mean, realistically speaking, there are a lot of ways to fix or to even improve the scene little by little without even having or forcing Valve to spend any money. But again, it's like we could probably spend like two days on this by topic by itself. So
mm-hmm.
um,
All right, I guess we'll just move on to the next thing. Yeah, completely got sidetracked just complaining about Valve things. There's so much to complain about.
there's so much to complain about.
All right, so let's start with let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and start crossing out a bunch of names I don't think are gonna do anything. Right?
Sure.
I don't think chaos.
Sorry. Do you want to talk about the format real quick?
Okay, let's talk about the format. Isn't it the same as last year? Am I mistaken? Did it change?
Um, no, I want to say last year it was not two groups.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was
Am I
two.
wrong right now?
No, it was two groups last year.
Was it also two groups?
Yeah, it was also two groups.
Damn. Yeah,
Right?
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I guess then
I
it's
remember
really
because
quick.
everybody mistakenly thought the other group was stronger than the other one, and like I'm like because the thing problem with last year was like everybody's looking at the groups like it's a bit lopsided, and I'm like maybe, but like the problem with like assuming that is like Ti is so different from the rest of the year. Nobody knows shit.
I was about to say, everybody keeps saying that every year, by the way. Every year there's a designated
Best group,
um
but
group of death or a better group, whatever. People are always wrong.
yeah, like here I will say here's my theory about that. They they're just look. The thing is like they're just looking at the results, right? Of the
Yeah.
results, and I think that's like technically an objective way to look at it. The problem with that is like Dota is the answer to Dota is partly in the draft, right? And in the strategy and all that. Actually, depending on who you ask, it might be the ultimate answer. But if you look at it that way, then because you're sectioning off the two groups against each other, two groups away from each other, and like they never meet in the beginning part, whichever group comes up with the better answer is therefore the stronger group.
No, absolutely, and this is what a lot of teams have said. So I think There were players even saying that their TI run would have never went so well if it hadn't been in that certain group, right? In that
Yeah.
group with that team that eventually won TI, or that team that eventually set the meta, set the tone for that event. It's just like you said, people come up with ideas on how to tackle the meta, and if you're in that group, you're gonna adapt to that, or you're gonna adapt that into your own into your own strategy. That's just the way it is in Dota. And like I said, like, yeah, sure, after the event you can go be like 2020, oh look, top 4 were in group B after all, group A wasn't a group of death after all, but that doesn't matter. What matters is, if you were to decide to strengthen groups, who was strong coming into this tournament. Like, if VP and Team Secret are in one group, I mean, I'd still call it the group of death most likely, if you add like LGD and NIP or whatever in there. If neither of them enter top 4, you can't just go back and say that wasn't the group of death. It was
Hmm.
just,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. All
But
right.
yeah, no, just
All
quick
right.
thoughts on the format. Big fan. Glad they stuck to it. And yeah, all
Mm-hmm.
right,
All right. So I'm gonna start crossing out a bunch of names I don't think are gonna go anywhere. Feel
right,
free to disagree with me if you don't think that's true.
sure.
I
What
don't.
do you mean by not going anywhere?
All right. So I think they're gonna get eliminated. They're either gonna get eliminated in groups because last team goes out, or
Right,
I think the furthest they get is lower bracket round 2.
right,
So that's like 6 different teams, right?
right. What I mean, you mean low bracket round 1, because then they'll get eliminated there. That
Yeah,
would
round 1
basically,
then.
right, yeah. All right,
So let's see. I will pick Infamous is my first pick. I
fair.
don't believe in them. Who else do I not believe in? I I like KP, but I don't believe in Mineski.
Nobody does,
Yeah.
except for that random SCA fan.
I don't believe in Chaos, even though I think like there's like 1 or 2 good players in there. Certainly Matumba Man, and then I'm undecided if Kezu or Milan can do anything. And I'm kind of out on Misery as a captain right now. Like I feel like he needs a very certain vibe, as in like he basically needs revenge against something to really work out. And I
Do
don't know if that's gonna work out for him there.
Do you
So
not think the revenge in proxy through Matumaman is going to help him?
no, man, it has to be personal revenge with him. Like it's always been personal revenge with him, right?
I'm sure he'll find a way to make it personal.
Right. After that, I don't believe in newbie, which is like the NA stack, and the problem
Forward, yeah, X forward.
X forward. Like they were already bad to begin with when they were forward, and like I get the only possible upside here I can think of is like they have literally no pressure, so maybe one of them goes off, but like that's not like you can say that about a bunch of underdog teams that have better talent too. So it's like, I'm not in on them. After that, it's kind of a toss up. I'm I don't really believe in Navi still. Like I think Saniko kind of missed his time slot of when he was gonna be like a good captain, kind of like I think Navi all those years ago should have bet on him, but now I think it's a bit too late for that. So
And who's your sixth team?
so many choices, but I'm gonna go with RNG. I think they're just worse than King Gaming.
So
So
basically all the qualifier
yeah,
teams.
all the qualified teams because I think
All
all
the
the best
qualifier
teams
teams.
actually made it through the DPC.
All right, all right, all right.
What do you got?
I generally agree with you. 2 exceptions. I think Fnatic very
Fnatic is pretty
likely
bad, but
very hot contender also to just drop out very early on. I think Alliance, if they don't make it, so Alliance for me is a team that has potential to make the upper bracket actually. I think they can be top 4 in their own group, but I believe if they don't make it in the top 4, I think they're going to drop out in the first round of low bracket. Like a best of 1, if they like best of 1 against like Keen Gaming, RNG, honestly, any like really experienced team, I think they'll lose because of pressure. I think they'll just drop out of pressure
hmm.
because of pressure. I think OG, honestly, um, has been, so they've not actually played that badly this season. Where I would say that they,
Well, Uji didn't play like 80% of the season. Like the first
well,
50% they were rewatching the documentary. The
yeah,
last 30% they had all these roster issues.
watching and filming because there's a new documentary out.
Yeah.
No, OG for me is also a team that has a lot of potential to just drop out early on. And the rest to me is just sort of like idiot proof. Like I don't see like you're on the Wikipedia page probably right now as well, right?
Yep.
The top row, like Secret, VP, Vici, EG, Liquid, PSG, LGD. There's even no way I picture them in the lower bracket in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Liquid maybe because they're a new team and they could struggle still with this roster. Liquid maybe, but the rest is like I just don't see them even dropping to the low bracket in the during their group. I see all of them in the respective top four of their own groups.
Yeah.
NIP, TNC are also pretty safe for me, even if they were to make it to the low bracket. I think they beat pretty much most teams in there because I expect most of the qualified teams to be in the lower bracket, right?
Mm-hmm.
NIP to me is just they beat them. Fnatic, big toss up. I think they could lose to pretty much anybody this tournament. Like
Yeah.
if Fnatic and Navi in the low bracket, I probably put if I had to bet, I would bet on Navi probably. Just
Depend.
because
Man,
Fnatic to me is just I don't know.
like, listen, Ice 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 has always been bad at TI, but so bad that he dropped out of first round. I'm not that.
Nah, I can see it. I can see it. As for dead last, I think Infamous is a safe dead last pick for me.
Mm-hmm.
And Mineski then for me. Like Mineski to me is someone like they've played some of the worst Dota I've seen all season.
Not surprising. Yeah, that sounds about right. So let's see here. You want to talk about these middling teams or the best teams?
Let's talk about the middle tier teams first. So basically the second row, I guess, on this Wikipedia page.
I mean, it's well ranked. It's well ranked.
It's really well ranked. I mean, we both agree that Fnatic is by far the worst team out of this lineup.
Yeah, Fnatic is so bad.
Which is funny because depending on how their bootcamp went and depending on how they show up, they could still actually become like a top 6 team at this event. Like, I mean, Fnatic has a high, not the highest of ceilings. I don't see them being top 4, but like a top 6 isn't really out of the world. You know, you do have Abba, DJ, and Ice. Like those players,
Yeah,
you expect them sort of to be in the top 6.
Yeah, they're all.
But the way
good.
they've been playing this season just leads me to believe that they'll just drop out really early.
Yeah, like they only had one good performance. They're like, oh wow, it's all coming together. No, nope, it's all false hope. Just classic,
Pretty
classic
much.
orange, classic SEA Dota, classic. Like if you're gonna bet on an SEA team, obviously you go bet on TNC. I think
TNC, yeah.
TNC has basically been only losing to like contenders ever since he joined.
What's the highest you think they can go this tournament?
I think they might get one good upset. So if you get them one good upset, probably top 6. Like I think they might beat one of like the top 5 or 6 teams. Like obviously, actually, I think they could obviously beat LG. I think they've already done it, but like the 5, the top 5, like the other those they could probably beat one of those in the best of 3. I don't think they could go do 2 of them though. So
I actually think they could go really really far. I think they could be even like third best team in this tournament, or like place top 3.
you're just betting a progression.
Well, that, but also I think that some of these teams haven't really shown me this season that they are undoubtedly like at the top all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from like Secret and VP, and I was gonna say EG too, but then there was that atrocious Epicenter performance.
Well, of course they weren't going to do well. They were in the midst of the OG anime again.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
fuck. Not only did they come back for revenge, but their fucking No-Tail is in a hospital. We can't possibly win against this bullshit.
Basically, yeah. No, but I think Vici, LGD, they've sort of like had too many off performances and like sort of like vanished every now and then. Whereas like where I'm not really convinced that they can pull through here. Whereas TNC, they've to me, I mean, not even just to me, objectively speaking, they've been on an up.
Yeah.
For this, obviously, this like what 2 months break, 1.5 month break, might have put a damper on that. But I do think that they have the potential to just grow at this event. They've shown it before that they can grow at an event. They had that really big run at TI 6.
I mean, it was a different team,
Jimmy?
wasn't it?
I know. Well, they
like,
had some of those.
Like who? I don't know if all of them were the same. I don't think so.
All right. AO was, I believe, AO, Tim's, and Cuckoo were on there, on that team.
Okay, so like the 2 most important, Gabby and Armel, weren't on there.
I wouldn't. I'm not even sure if I would count them. As
I think Armel is pretty important. Like I'm not sure. I won't say the same about Gabby, but I think Armel is pretty important.
Let me just quickly look it up just to make sure. AU, Cuckoo, and just AU and Cuckoo actually.
Not even
So
Tim's then. Like Tim's is
Tim's was season one. Still, I do think that they have the potential to progress, and I mean, even at the Epicenter Major, I think that they gradually became stronger during that event too. So
right.
I do think that this team has the potential to just plus again. I think a lot of the other teams have a lot of their own issues to sort out. I actually don't expect EG to do that well.
Me
We're
neither.
gonna go to that
We'll go that
later.
later. Yeah.
Um, and to me, VP and Secret are the only ones that have proven this season that they can consistently be like top 2 team.
Mm-hmm.
And even they, I wouldn't call it struggle, but they had their own issues at the Epicenter Major, right?
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't count the two. We wouldn't read too much into that anyway. But
And VP was still third. Like.
yeah, and again, and VP was still third. So so those are the only, like, obviously depends on the bracket. I mean, VP literally had a bracket in a TI7 where they had to play Secret. They lost, or no, LGD. They lost to LGD, and they lost to Team Liquid, the 2 finalists.
Yeah.
And then they placed like top 8 or whatever. Like, it obviously depends on the bracket. If TNC
I
draws
know they lost
Secret
to
in the upper
LFY. I
bracket,
think. Pretty sure they lost. But
or to
LFY. I
LFY,
thought
but
LFY was better than LGD anyway. So.
yeah. So if TNC end up drawing like Secret and then drop down and then they face VP, I mean, well, if they don't win against that one, I won't hold it against them. But generally speaking, I think they have potential to be top 3.
All right. So here's my take on TNC. Like I feel like they're just too young. Straight up, all 5 of them. I can't bet on all 5 of them showing up all at the same time. And like, yeah, I think Heen is a great coach. Obviously, like I don't think you get like I always thought he had a great mind when I talked to him when it came to the game. But my problem with Heen is I don't have any particular evidence to know if he's great at the emotional part. And I feel like the emotional part is gonna be like the more important aspect when you go into a TI. And you just think about that TI run he had with Liquid, right? It wasn't fucking Heen looking into the eyes of GH saying, I saw fear in that rookie, and I knew I had like no, that was Kuroki. That was Kuroki that did that shit, right? I don't know if Heen can do the same thing, and I don't actually know. Like, it's fair to say like I don't really know the personalities of any of the TNC players, but like that the emotional aspect is critical, and I don't necessarily know if Heen is has also that part down, right? So it's kind of like I feel like it's just too much of a gamble for me to put them higher than top 6.
What I will say to that is that I do think there is potential downfall for them because they are not necessarily underdogs anymore. They sort of like played themselves into a position where people are counting on them to show up. So that could potentially be in their way, that people are actually going to be super prepared for them too. Because if they had stayed under the radar for a little bit, people might not have been expecting them to.
Yeah,
to
you could see deck your way up. Oh my god, basically. How did they make it with Shiki? All that shit.
So I think there's definitely potential for them to sort of like trip over their own feet, just because they might not be able to handle that type of pressure, because there's going to be a different type of pressure. Now you're actually not necessarily like a favorite, but you're supposed to be one of the best teams at this event, maybe like a top 8 team or whatever, and that is a type of pressure they might not necessarily be comfortable with, because realistically TNC has never been in that position. They've always sort of like played from this underdog position at most events, just because they've always been sort of like in the shadow of like Fnatic, or last year was Mneski.
The 1 year they took out OG, they were in the shadow of like fucking everybody. So it's like yeah.
So there's definitely potential for them to sort of like trip. But again, I do also think that there's a lot of potential for them to upset. One upset is almost guaranteed, I think, just because I think this team is very, not even just explosive, but the way they've been playing is just really almost. That's the scary part, right? They've actually become really meticulous too. They play really.
It's because Heen taught them. Like I'm gonna go ahead and say I think it's Heen. Like it's the biggest, differential.
I think that's for sure the sort of like that is, I would say, more like 85% the reason. I do think that them also having a lot of like
here's the thing, they already had everything they needed, but like he gave them like the extra 10% that they were missing for the last like 8 years.
Well,
or whatever, however long they were playing.
Yes and no, but at the same time, AO, for example, he also came back, right? Like he's literally one of the best support players in SEA.
Yeah, but like the problem with that is like I'm talking about like the team play stuff. It wasn't really the skill thing that was always holding them back.
Right. But I'm saying is like he's not been with the team for like the longest time now. Like he
Hmm.
literally came back out of like whatever. So I think him. Look, what I'm basically saying is, if Keen hadn't joined, I think this TNC team would probably still be the best SEA team. Whether or not they could
Well, I
like
mean,
be like,
yeah, like their biggest
whether
rival is Fnatic.
I think they were on the right track already, even without Heen, but obviously him being there just helps so much more. So
Hmm.
um yeah, this top 8 for me at least. I think top 6 isn't out of reach, and then everything beyond that is really just dependent on the bracket.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to Alliance. You already talked about your thoughts, Alliance. I think they'll get to the playoffs, maybe.
Yeah, Alliance I think has the potential also to be like a top 4 team in their own group. Not necessarily because they're such a strong team, but I think the way they play allows them to take games off of anybody because they have this weird meta for themselves, which makes it really difficult to play against them. You have to ban heroes that you're not necessarily comfortable with. They play heroes that you aren't really comfortable with. They adapt really quickly too. They have 2 very explosive carries. Quaika has the weirdest hero pool ever, and usually when people like Quaika have like a really weird hero pool, you'd think that that's holding them back too if they some certain heroes are banned. With Quaika, I mean, he has so much experience actually because he's been in the scene around for so long. I would not see that. Like Ace, for example, if you ban his Meepo, Arc Warden, Juggernaut, whatever, then you might consider yourself a little bit in a pickle. But with Quaika, like if you ban his now Brute Mother and I don't know what Lone Druid. I mean, he still has Nature's Prophet. He still has like Storm Spirit. Like he has so many like heroes that he's built over the years. Whereas like he has had phases, right? And like when he was with Mouse Boards, like his Lone Druid and Nature's Prophet were really strong. Then he joined Team Liquid or that weird NA stack or whatever, and then he played Queen of Pain, Storm a lot, and like I think Quackwa, as weird as it might sound, might actually be their strongest weapon. Even though I don't even think he's the best player in the team, but just his hero pool allows him to play so different that I think they should in a best of 2 in the best of 2 round robin group stage they should do really well, and then in the playoffs I see them struggling against all the top teams. Like I see them struggling against like the likes of Virtus Pro, LGD, Vici Gaming, um, especially the Chinese teams actually because they don't have a lot of experience playing them.
Yeah, it's hard for me to know exactly where they place because for them it's gonna be a lot about the matchup. I think
Yeah,
like if I threw them against like the top 5 or top 6, I think we lose against all of them, right? So I think it really comes down to who they're playing against in the like the middle tier, right? If they happen to have like Fnatic and OG, then yeah, I think Alliance probably make the playoffs. If they happen to have like TNC and NIP or TNC and Keen, I think they'll drop down. I don't think they'll make it in the top 4 or
and
whatever.
the funny thing is I actually think they have really good chances against the European teams and like
Yeah,
the ones that they already know how to play against and the ones they
yeah, they'll
almost feel
have a lot more
comfortable
comfort
playing
against them.
against.
Whereas like I think
Yeah,
you throw them against like TNC or Keen, I don't know.
yeah.
I'd
No,
rather take those guys over.
and this is why I think like if they find themselves in the best of 1 against any of these teams, they'll struggle and they will most likely drop out in my opinion.
Yeah.
If they play against like Navi, actually Navi could be problematic too because Navi's Navi, but if they play like Mineski, Newbie, Infamous in the best of 1, I don't really care. Like they'll probably win that, but in a best of 1 against the likes of NIP, PSG, LGD, Keen, anything can happen. I wouldn't necessarily bet on Alliance.
Yeah. As for Keen, I actually think they have the reverse problem with Alliance, where like if I threw Alliance against these European teams, I'm like they got a chance. They've been playing these guys all year. They got a chance. If I throw Keen against any of these shiny teams, I know for certain they're gonna get the shit kicked out of them. Like these guys always like the only reason they think they're here is because they made it through a few times. Like oh thank God now we can play these international teams and they fed off of those few runs. So in my opinion, I think Keen is just a better against the international field than they are against the domestic field.
Keen definitely only got here because the competition in China was a little bit struggling at some point.
Mm-hmm.
If eHome hadn't had their roster issues, we'd probably be seeing eHome here right now instead of Keen.
Yeah.
Keen just, yeah, I think just a sheer experience, and I mean their playstyle isn't necessarily bad either. They'll probably get themselves to like a solid like 9th to 12th place or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I have no expectations for this team at this event.
Like I
Like if
think,
they make top 8, I'll be surprised.
like I think, if Keen go top 8 or something, it'll probably be because of some kind of weird meta answer that they have.
Or matchup. Like
Um,
if they just if they make top 4 in their group and they draw alliance and then they beat them, they're already secured like top 6 or whatever, right?
yeah,
So that there's definitely matchups that can benefit them in so many ways, but I just don't see them doing that well overall.
right. So after that is
NIP?
NIP. So the great leader PPD and his crew of really weird players.
All
Like
right. Question. In comparison to Optic last year, which team do you think is better, Optic last year or this one?
this one, like I think I have problems with Fada as a player, but I think CCNC was a worse mid laner because at least Fada recognizes the fact that he's like a off laner and playing in the mid lane or whatever. So like I think the biggest problem I have though is like I think like Ace is less versatile than Pycat, but on the other hand, like if you do get him on his heroes, he's better than Pycat. 3-3 is the
So
same. Saksa is worse than Zai. PPD is still PPD. Overall, I like it's weirder. This team is weirder, but I think they're a bit better than last year.
I actually disagree. I think that while on paper Fada is a better mid laner than CCNC, I think the way they played CCNC was like PPD had honestly a really smart answer to how he needed to play around CCNC. He didn't ever pick him like super like important, impactful mid laners. What he did was he picked the mid laners that were still going to be useful and impactful in late stage of this game, even with no farm. Like he never pressured CCNC to be ahead in his own game.
Yeah, he's
And
the
that actually worked out really, really well for CNCC. Like I give him a lot of shit, and he was by far the worst mid laner in that top 6 last year, or even top 8 or top 10. But he still did a very thankless job in a almost great manner. Whereas Fata, to me, like sometimes like they don't. I mean, I agree with you that he has sort of like accepted this sort of like secondary role in this team, but
he's like third. He's
or
like
like third even, but it still feels like he just does way too little sometimes with those,
mhm.
even in that position. Fata just feels a little bit lost as to like how he wants to play Dota. Sometimes it'll be this way, sometimes it'll be that way, and it just doesn't resonate with the rest of the team that well. Um,
Mhm.
and then Saksa just is significantly worse than Zai to me. I mean,
Yeah.
Saksa's still a great player, don't get me wrong, but Zai is just one of the best players in the world, like top 3 best players individually, disregarding the position even. So
Yeah.
to me, they're like a
He,
worse team than last year, and
I
that
think
to
like
me
they're.
makes
I
it
think
like
if they randomly get into the like their specialties, they're better though. Like I guess that's how
yeah,
I put it.
that's fair. That's fair. If they get sort of like their picks, you know, and if they can be or they are better than last
Like
year. But I think
I'll
last
put
year
it this.
was
I guess I'll put it this way. I feel like last year their only real answer was 3-3.
well, yeah. But the thing is, to me, last year they were so their floor was a lot higher because they didn't have those
Yeah,
fake
their floor was
drop-offs.
a lot
But
higher because they
in
they had
this
less
team,
problems.
yeah, in this team, like if you don't give Ace and 3 good heroes, like if in case you were to have to give them both bad heroes, or you know
It's
heroes that they're
over.
bad on,
Yeah.
it's over. Um, and Pycat is just such a like a solid player. Like he might not be ever a 10, but he's always going to be at least like a 6, 7. Whereas Ace to me, he can be a 10, but on like another day he can also be like a 4 or 3.
3.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and this is why I think evaluating teams like NMP is also going to be really difficult because um
They have
a
really
lot
high
of
variance.
yeah, a lot of it is dependent like the matchup and sort of like how their draft goes too. So generally speaking, I do see them as a top 8 team because I think PPD as a captain has just always pulled through in terms of like making sure he enables his players. The fact that this team was even like so far up the DPC despite all the competition in Europe is also should go to show that NIP has done some good work this season and they have improved over the season. But I mean, I don't see them even being close to top 4. Top 6 is their maximum to me.
I think they could upset one of the better teams. That's not Virtus Pro and it's not Secret and not Liquid. So I guess they could beat Vici maybe. It could beat EG maybe. That's how I see it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they could also lose to a bunch of worse teams. So yeah, it's kind of
That's
iffy with
true.
NIP. All right, what about the team? The only team that's weirder than NIP, OG.
Um, I don't have high expectations for this team. Um, I think they rely what they do really well is play as a team, and they generally have a good idea of how the game works as a like from a meta standpoint. Um, but I think it's undeniable that they have individual flaws in terms of like actual players. Like Thompson is not like Thompson on some heroes might be the best offlane, best mid lane in the world, but on other heroes he might just be like really bad.
No, that's
I
that's
wouldn't
the
I
that's the
wouldn't.
problem with down the entire line
Well,
of
yeah,
the OG players.
yes,
Anna could be
yes,
the
yes,
best player in
yes,
the world, except only on certain heroes. Same with Thompson.
yes,
Same thing with fucking Mad.
yes.
Same thing with
And
Jerax, and same
I
thing with
will
No
say
Tail.
they've generally found a good way of sort of like setting themselves up to be in a winning position, but I just don't think it's gonna happen at this event. Like I think a top 8 run for them would be great, and I think to me that'd be surprising because I don't see them as a top 8 team at this event. But I think a lot of things have to go right for them, and I respect him so much as a captain, as a coach, as a Dota mind. But to me, Mad is actually such a big weak link. In terms of like,
Play or what?
yeah, in terms of mechanical skill. It's crazy to say that even though last year he was one of the detrimental pieces to their success. Actually, all of them were, so it's really difficult to even
Like
pick one out.
last year, basically, basically last year they hit all the objectives. They're like, yeah, fucking
Yeah,
Mad isn't that good, but randomly he will get Tree
yeah,
or Axe or
yeah,
Enchantress. Thompson isn't
yeah.
that good. We kept getting him Invoker. Anna, we just kept getting him those late game heroes. No Tail, we got all those weird heroes. Jerax got him like Earthshaker. Like, you're gonna have to do that again. And this
No.
year, I won't say we had an entire year. We probably had like 3 or 4 months of people playing against this lineup. So they kind of know what's gonna come, and it's gonna be a lot harder to do that this year.
Yeah, absolutely. That I think is the biggest factor. The fact that people have experience playing against them now. And
And like everybody
that's
rewatched
because
that fucking documentary. There's like 8 of them out
well,
there. So
yeah,
like everybody
true.
fucking knows your drafts at this point.
And OG has like this like weird approach to the meta, but again, no everybody or most people at this point know it too.
Yeah.
And they can make up for what they lack in terms of individual skill, or even what they lack in terms of like, even if they were to get an objectively worse draft than other teams, they can make up for it with like teamwork and coordination and communication, because they have excellent communication and coordination. Really, you watch them, it kind of reminds me of Liquid just before they won TI.
This OG reminds me
That's
of old OG also. Like
well, yeah, and that too. But I think they will meet their maker once you like run into teams that just dominate it with sheer individual skill. Like if an LGD, if like it maybe pops off, like what's OG gonna do? Like, and that's the funny thing, right? That's actually what should have happened at TI last year too.
it nearly did.
Um, and
But
well, yeah, that's the thing. It nearly did.
it
Like
nearly did in
OG
a meta that
literally
was against LGD, technically.
OG literally hit that 1% chance, 0.1% chance, however little you want to call it. They literally got that one, and then I don't think they're gonna get that lucky again at all this tournament.
Yeah.
So I think top 8 would be a great performance for them, given that they haven't made any roster changes, given that they haven't even played half the season. But I wouldn't also be surprised if they dropped out in a like bottom 4.
Yeah, like I think outside the only team I feel confident OG can might be able to beat is EG. And it doesn't really have to do with anything strategical. It's just like for whatever reason, emotionally speaking, they all play better against EG. I don't get it.
I actually also think they can beat Liquid. I think Matt has a good read
He
on
might have a
both.
good read on Liquid too, maybe, but
Yeah,
like outside of that, I think they can lose to anybody. So,
yeah.
or almost anybody except for like the four trash tier team. Not I won't call them trash tier, but like the 4 teams I expect to go out pretty early.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Like, yeah, maybe they can go far, but like I'm not like I'd put them below like TNC for sure. So that's how I'd
Yeah,
say.
I put them below TNC. I put them below NIP. I think Alliance generally, I would put Alliance ahead of them too, just because I think Alliance has a better chance of performing in the group versus OG.
Like
Um,
I'd reverse that and like I think I put OG over Alliance if you get to the playoffs, because
That's fair.
I feel like experience wise, obviously OG is way
No,
better than Alliance.
that's fair. That's fair.
But like in the group stage, yeah, maybe Alliance is better than OG. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Right.
Now to our
Top
title
six.
favorites.
All right. So the team I'm gonna go ahead and say is not gonna win is LGD. I've seen them for a
Or
year now. Guess what?
what
They've
was
never
that?
beaten an elite team.
What team did you say?
LGD.
Oh yeah, and Vici. There's if Vici win this game, I'll write a 3,000 word essay on why Vici Gaming is the best team in the world. But that's not going to happen.
Like I'll go with LGD first. Like their problem is like they just can't beat better team. They can't beat the elite squad. They're gatekeepers. If you could beat LGD, maybe you're a contender.
They're not even better than themselves. LGD, right? Are they even better than what they were last year?
No, they're like half of what they were last year.
Yeah, and last year they were fucking explosive. Like right now, it's like last year they were like tiger. Now they're like a kitty cat.
No, now it's like FY. How many bodies can you carry on your back? 2, 3, maybe 4. Depends. How are you feeling today? Oh shit, you're good. You're good. Okay, it's just 2 people. I gotta carry 3. Oh, maybe he's off. I guess I gotta carry all 4 of you. Like that's how I literally feel about LGD. Like I'm gonna go ahead and say. Actually, I don't know if I'll ever write it because like obviously I'm out of a job. But if I was writing like best players of this year, FY is the best support, and LGD is not good.
Sounds fair. No, LGD is horrible, and I was considering if LG could even like drop out in the first round.
No,
but in
like
low bracket,
FY is too good.
Not only that,
Well, not FY, but like they're
across the board. They're just too good to do that. Like they would legitimately have to face like Liquid or Secret in the bottom in the best of one for that to happen, and that's just so unlikely.
I'm just hating because they were so amazing once before.
No, I agree. LGD shadow of their former selves. They should have made a roster change for sure. They fell into this newbie trap. Oh, we were second at TI. Surely next year we can turn it around, and we're such a hot team. Just continue where we left off. But no, that's just not how.
I just think they needed a way more consistent carry. And there were a few options in China, but they didn't go for any of them. So here we are.
It's not even just more consistent. It's also just like not prone to throwing. Ame just...
Yeah, that's what I mean by more consistent. Like,
well, yeah, I guess.
Like you don't need a guy as good as Ame at his heights. You don't. Not really. I think I think you just need maybe an FY for FY will. Those guys are the ones really setting the tone, and then you just need guys that does his job.
LGD needs a Pycat.
Yeah, they needed like
a Pycat type carry, like somebody that you're always going to get something like solid out of him.
Yeah, like obviously if they could have, Paparazzi would have been the best choice, but like even like that one guy, I forget his name now. TI8. Let's check here. Like it was a guy on the worst team, but like I thought he was pretty consistent. Like it was like an older veteran. Know what I'm talking about?
Aggressive?
Sylar. They could have gone with Sylar, I think.
Oh, Sylar. Yeah,
he would have been fine.
Well, there's a bit of a problem with that. Ruru and Sylar have a very, very troubled history.
Yeah, obviously. But listen, man, he would have worked. That's all I'm saying.
Nah, for sure. And I mean, that's like the great tragedy of Sylar, that his career is so overshadowed by like just stupid stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. Like Sylar could definitely help. I mean, Ame, I will never forget how he threw that goddamn game at TI last year. And I mean, I feel like it's sort of been haunting them this entire season. They've not been great. They've been good every now and then, and sometimes they've been even like almost great. But it just never felt like they were like a real threat to anybody in terms of.
They never were.
We're coming for that number 1 spot. Nah,
no,
not really.
No way. Like
you're not coming for anything.
I explained it with a classic Kyle quote, back then known as Swindle Melons. Sometimes you just gotta break up the team, because when you look at your team that failed TI, all that Vietnam flashbacks come right to your head, and you just kind of break apart.
It sounds so stupid, but that's so true. It is so true, because. And this is why it is almost recommended for a team, and not almost. This is why it is recommended for teams to make changes after TI. This is why people even do changes after they win TI, because if you go through so much together as a team, like like, and if something goes wrong, like if that doubt ever exists in your mind where you doubt your teammate, like that just doesn't go away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just maybe trust him to play that carry in that position again, and like at that stage of the game, like if they play Ti and literally the exact same scenario happens, do you not think that maybe it's gonna, or like the rest of the LGD is gonna be super nervous that Am is gonna pull some shit again,
Of
right?
course.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just so I think they should have made a roster change for sure. I'm not even like arguing. Honestly, it's not even that they had to replace Army. Like they should have just done something. Like a team needs something to rejuvenate itself, but this team is just awful in terms of like what they could be if you looked at the team on paper.
And what they were
So
compared to what they were.
if I
Yeah.
had to, yeah, if I had to pick a placement, I mean, top 8 is almost guaranteed for this team just because I think they're that good still. But I don't see them being top 4.
No.
I'd be surprised if they made top 4.
I'd be very surprised. All right, let's go to the other Chinese team. Now, here's the thing about Vici Gaming. They are technically a great team.
I want to believe in them.
They have won 2 majors. They won 2. But I've watched Paparazzi and Ori for so long. For so long.
Yeah,
And
we've been hurt. We've been hurt before.
And every single time, it takes them forever to get over the next hurdle. So the first hurdle, they're like, "We're the onliners. Let's go to LAN." Oh, you got bum rushed out of the 16th place. Okay, go keep going. Takes like 6 months, 8 months. Oh, look, you're finally doing okay on LAN. Oh, you're getting kicked out of semifinals. Oh, look, you went to a smaller LAN. You finally did well. You finally won the smaller LAN, or you won like a big LAN, but you went to the major, got kicked out of 16th place again. Jesus Christ. And it just keeps going like that over and over and over again. And now they're finally at the TI step, and guess what? I'm gonna go ahead and say they're gonna get kicked out pretty early too, because I just don't believe in them. But
See,
their raw skill, if I ignored all the mental aspects, their raw skill, I'd say they're top 3.
Yeah, I think if we just looked on paper, I think they are actually really good runner up or a good contender for TI, the title.
Yeah.
Because if we address like their mental issues, whatever, I mean, we're literally about to talk about 2 teams that have faced that at previous TIs numerous times themselves, right? So that is not something that they are facing just by themselves. Like everybody has that issue at TI. Like is like Secret versus Pro are literally 2 of the biggest tilters in TI history.
Well, not Secret, because like 3 of them haven't even been here before.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
Yeah, like Secret's been iffy. We'll talk about it, but there are certainly tilters here. There are certainly tilters here.
There's a couple other tilters here for sure. To me, Vici Gaming, if they win this TI, like I don't think they're gonna do it, and I think it's actually pretty unlikely just because of what you've outlined. But at the end of the day, if they do it, there's that story where people can, like, what you just said is effectively actually a progression of how they've been building themselves up over like years, Paparazzi and Ori, right? And how they've been like how this actually been leading up.
They just keep switching out those other 3, but they always kept those 2.
Yeah,
this is also so like ROTK's redemption, I guess, as a coach.
Yeah, if anything, one could argue that this is bound to happen, but at the same time, I just don't think it is going to happen yet because
nobody's ever bound to win TI. I learned that from watching Burning's career.
Yeah, exactly.
And FY's career. You could be the best player of all time, FY. Burning doesn't mean you'll win TI.
That's actually so sad. Oh God.
Think about that for a second. If somebody went up to any Dota fan, any Dota player in the world, was like, name your top 5, top 10 players of all time, guarantee those 2 names, Burning and FY, will be on everybody's fucking list. Those 2 guys will never win TI.
Basically, yeah. But yeah, just to go back to VG real quick, I will say what was impressive for me anyway with this team when they won the Dream League Major, for example, was that they beat both Secret and VP at that event.
Yeah. They had legit
and LGD
drafting.
Actually.
They had legit drafting. Like ROTK is good. He's good.
I mean, not just him. I mean, Paparazzi and Ori. I mean, we've been making the comparison to EG, like Arteezy and Sumail, in terms of individual skill, mechanical skill. Just
they're better.
Even they're actually better right now. Yeah, they're better. They're like probably the best duo.
They're the best. They're the best 1-2 core duo, carry duo, whatever you want to call it.
So it. Again, I don't think it's likely that they're going to win, but if they do win, everybody's going to be like, this is like the perfect story. Like they've been building up to this. This is like,
Yeah.
whatever. But
And ROTK
yeah,
finally gets his fucking TI after losing the mysterious TI that was missing, or whatever you want to call it, like TI4, the TI
that
that
was
must not
rough.
be named.
The TI that definitely must not be named.
Right. So yeah, I think
It's so funny, by the way, how that TI set China up to actually become a really bad region, or not a bad
yeah,
region, but like it sort of like deteriorated from there.
yeah, like
But
everything started
or
falling
really
apart.
deteriorated.
Like cuz
Yeah.
that was like I think I wrote an article about this, basically like the fall of Chinese Dota. I don't know if you ever read it, but basically my whole
No, I
art.
read it because we wrote very eerily similar articles.
Yeah, but basically the entire premise is like they missed the jump of when they should have shifted generations,
Yeah.
and it was that year.
And it happened. It happened that year. Yeah. Then suddenly, pretty much everybody retired, and oh, where's the next generation? By the way,
Fuck. That's
yeah.
kind
What
of
about
what
that?
like that's kind of what happened. But
Anyway, Vici Gaming might just be that answer to that sort of like question, like where's the next generation of like sort of like Chinese superstars, right? Like, I feel like ever since the likes of like ever since the TI4 run, right? When we had like I know that technically some people stuck around, like how stuck around too, technically, but like it feels like ever since then we've sort of like been missing like these superstars in China that sort of like made their mark and like become like the actual like we've seen SEC, but where's that title, right? Where's that big title?
no,
Even in terms of like
they aren't.
even in
They are,
terms of like
I'll put it this way: they aren't the true heirs of Burning. Only
well
FY was.
well
That's
where's
kind of
his
that's
title?
how I see it. Like they weren't the true heirs of that golden generation of Chinese superstar players. That's all.
I do think that having won two majors helps this VG gaming lineup a lot because and again the way they won those majors too by having beat both Liquid and or not Liquid, well actually they
Secret.
beat like
They beat Liquid
Secret
too.
VP, they beat Liquid in the other major too, they beat LGD, like they literally beat the best
They could
teams in the
literally
world.
beat anybody. Like my problem with them is like I said, the progression tells me
Yeah.
paparazzi and Ori are gonna choke.
Well, but the thing is if they don't, even then I'm not 100% sure they can win that tournament because I think at their best they won't beat Secret at their best. Like if Secret is at its best in this entire tournament,
I think
Secret for me is going to win this.
I think I don't know. I think it's possible. Like I won't say it's like I won't say like it's lopsided. Like I'd probably say it's
Yeah, well,
like best versus best. I'd say like Secret maybe get like 55% to 45%, something like that, right? And
I'll probably
you're
go with
basically in the
60
ball.
65.
Yeah, you're basically in the game at that point.
Yeah.
You can still
No,
win.
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
That's how I'd see it. Yeah, because I think I I think ROTK is just a funny drafter to me because like he always targets the offlaner as if like he's getting karmic revenge for all his years of playing Dota.
This is
But,
what you guys did to me.
but whatever, it works. It works. All right. Now let's talk about another team I don't think is going to go anywhere, even though I think all signs point to them being like an elite team. EG.
Well, actually, I actually thought you were going to talk about Liquid.
No, actually, I think there's like
That's funny.
there's a funny argument to be made as to why Liquid could possibly win. But I'm gonna go with EG first because here's the thing about EG
Sure.
compared to Liquid, right? EG just never like you remember that funny remember that there's this like, stupid narrative I always hated, which is like, oh look, it's a loser bracket EG, they're gonna come back and win. In my mind, I'm just
Hmm.
thinking that was PPD, that wasn't this EG. And lo and behold, entire year, this EG never won, even though they are literally a superstar team.
And they've come close and fallen short for reasons. Like it's not just unfortunate out of the unfortunate series. Like there's reasons why they don't make it past that hurdle, right?
Yeah,
Um, I agree with you. Like, and this is like the big, and I think this is actually good that we talk about EG right after we talked about VG. That's the big difference to me between those two teams right now. Like, VG Gaming have won this season already, and they've proven themselves, and like they've gotten that confidence. Like EG, how much confidence do you really go into this tournament? Like, how much confidence do you have going into this tournament, knowing full well that you've been like there's memes about you being like the third best team. And then even at the last tournament of the season, you couldn't even be that third best team because you just got knocked out by like
classic
OG.
OG with Saksha with their
Yeah,
fucking coach stand in.
it's I think EG is a horrendous TI performance away from just completely.
blowing up.
disbanding, blowing up, whatever.
Like here's the thing, like I feel like my a lot of my answers as to like how you kind of split the fly no tail Seb thing were kind of answered this season, right? Like because I think they needed each other. Those three needed each other, but here we are, and I'm gonna go ahead and assume they're never gonna reconcile at this point. Like I feel like it's gonna be one of those, but here's my problem with Fly. I think like in terms of consistency, he's pretty good, as in like the fact that you're like memed as constant third place means you're getting pretty close every single time, right?
No, of course.
And that
Of
tells
course.
me at least in terms of Dota strategy, you always have a pretty good idea of what you want to go into a tournament with. But you don't have that extra element that PPD had, that No Tail and Seb showed in their TI run. Like you don't have that extra element that like pushes you up to and wins at the very last moment. You don't have that. You don't really have that weird clutch factor that PPD sometimes inhabits into his lineups. And
It's so funny, by the way, that we talk about how, and I agree with you, by the way, that they don't have that clutch factor.
it's in
But
OG though.
maybe like 2 years ago, we would look at Sumail as being the clutchest factor that ever existed in Dota. Like, remember when was it going into TI7? Was it going into? I think it was going into TI7 actually.
Yeah, TI7.
When we talked about
Sumail might be
as
the best
literally
player.
might be the best player in the world,
And
and
then
he
he
could literally
crumbled.
carry. Yeah, and like, where's that guy right now? Like, I still think he plays good, maybe even great, but like, where's that god that literally won games by himself? I
Like,
feel like if they, and I'm not even sure. Sorry, but yeah, I'm not even sure if this is like a problem they can fix, like bringing him back to that form. But they're certainly not bringing it out of him, which is, I think, my biggest gripe with him.
yeah. And like you go into like the Fly OG Fly No Tail Seb thing. I look at that TI8 run. I'm gonna go ahead and say I think, and I look at OG continuously. They may not have the most skilled players, but they do have that weird team play clutch aspect similar to PPD. Gonna go ahead and say I think it resided in fucking Mad and No Tail for whatever reason. Didn't reside in Fly, right?
So I will say it might be within Fly, but it might just be that it doesn't resonate within the team.
It could be like
It
maybe
might
he still has it, but like
he might have it, but
my counter argument to that is, remember all those times OG went to TI as a favorite and bombed out.
right, no, for sure, absolutely.
Like
It's tough for EG. Like, they basically have all the components to win it, but also they have all the components to fail,
like
because all of them literally have been there and that failure point, right?
yeah, like
Which is funny to say, even though they have 2 TI winners in the team, but still.
like here's the thing, Sumail, yeah, he won TI. He also won it with PBD. And listen, the year if he wanted to prove to me he was like the all-time clutch, should have done it in TI7 when we both thought he was like literally might have been the best player. Like he was right up there, right? He was like, if you didn't think he was the best player, he might have been second best. That's how good he was. Didn't show up at that TI, right? And here's the problem: this year, Arteezy is better than Sumail. Arteezy is the best player. Arteezy is famous for choking at TI. Okay, so your best player is famous for losing a TI. That's not good. It's okay. You have S4, TI champion. Oh wait, S4. He got away from that secret debacle, blame free. But let's be real. He might have been the worst player on that secret debacle.
Yep, he was actually.
Straight up. Okay. Well, you got Fly then. Oh wait, Fly was part of that OG debacle. And when he left OG won TI. Like, and to be fair though, Fly did go pretty far. So I'm still not 100% out on him. I still think he's got it, but like I said, he doesn't have that extra element. I haven't seen it yet. Then he got Crit. I actually think Crit is pretty fucking solid. I got no complaints
He's
about
pretty
Crit.
fucking solid. He's pretty fucking solid. If you were to add something to Crit too, it's just that he, as a captain, was not really working out for them.
Like
Which I think
he did good.
would've
He
been-
did some good things, did some bad things. He wasn't the worst, but he wasn't the best either. So
Yeah.
like, it doesn't really matter in this case because he's not the fucking captain. But like, I get what you mean.
No, right. No, well, it could weigh on him. Well, I don't think it does, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, it's really fucked up how EG, even though on paper this team, and they might even be third place at this event, sure, but like we keep talking about this over and over, but this team wants to win. This team should be winning, right?
His team has won less
Um,
than BG. He hasn't won.
and I think,
There you
yeah,
go.
and I think the note that you mentioned that Arteezy being the best player on this team right now, but him also having the history of choking at TI, is sort of what seals the deal for me of EG not making it that far. Either he overcomes it, and then maybe even
That'd be a
leads
great
him to
story.
like,
Yeah.
if he overcomes it and leads him to victory,
Like he's
sure,
one of
that's a
those
great
he's one of
story.
those players that probably should have gotten at least a great TI performance by now.
Yeah,
Like Eternal
actually.
Envy, I guess. They're in the same boat.
Um, and but I feel like is it, I'm not even sure if like this year or this team is the team to actually bring that out of him. I've said it before. I think he needs to split with Sumail. I think he needs to find something new, like a new team. And I think this, to me, EG at this event, top 6, sure, top 4, sure. I don't see them going farther.
Yeah. I will say it's kind of weird. Think about Arteezy splitting from EG just because I don't even know where he would go at this point. Because
He could literally
if
build a new
we
team.
both assume Arteezy Sumail split, obviously EG's gonna keep Sumail because that's what they've always done. So
Yeah, I would assume so. But well, I mean, I don't even think they're gonna split at all. Like,
yeah,
I
I
just
think
don't
they're
think
just gonna
it's
keep
gonna
running the
happen.
same experiment. And be like, yeah, I can't believe we didn't lose. We're still the best though, even though we don't win anything. Still the best. Still the goat. That's the funniest thing about Sumail was like, yeah, man, don't call me king, call me the greatest. I'm like, your results have gotten worse. Where did this come from? But whatever. I'm just saying, man. If you want to be the goat, be like Kuroki, be like Puppy.
Be like fucking Miracle, dude.
Miracle, now that's a goat. All right, let's talk
Miracle
about
is
Liquid.
honestly, sorry, yeah, well, yeah. Let's talk about Liquid. Miracle is honestly one of the biggest redemption stories at TI at all ever. When he played TI with OG, he was on the verge of
Collapse.
having like his TI performance with OG was so bad
Yeah.
that when they almost got knocked out at TI with when he almost got knocked out at TI with Liquid against Secret, he was about to go down as the worst performer at any TI because
Yes.
he was gonna have 2 horrible TI performances. Then they somehow won that game against Secret, and then from there on out, he carried the shit out of that team.
I'm gonna go and
Not even
say
not even by himself. Like, I don't want to take anything away from Mind Control and like G4 at the G4
GH.
GH at that event, but Miracle has become a god ever since that game. I legitimately think he's been the best player ever since.
I
Like the
think
best player in Dota ever
I
since.
think the change from OG to Liquid basically he needed that so badly. He
It
didn't realize it at
elevated
the
him.
time
Yeah.
because nobody real like you look back on that fucking Secret breakup, and I think the entire community had a fucking terrible read on Kuroki, just as a in-game leader or as just a general teammate, right? Like you remember back then, everybody's like it was
Right.
all
The whole
Kuroki's
like
fault and all that shit, right?
Kuroki was like
He's a
left.
terrible teammate. He's toxic, etc.,
Arteezy was
etc.
right. Yeah, yeah.
All that shit, right? But if you just look at what he's done with that team, all these youngins, and what he did to Miracle, I think I won't say all the credit because obviously a lot of it's internal, but he was an essential catalyst to that growth, right? So
I think this is often overlooked anyway. How much influence he's had on players surrounding him, and this is one of the reasons why I gave Eternal Envy so much credit as a captain too, because he's
when he
able
was
to elevate the people
yeah,
around him. Kuroki, I mean, he's literally built careers. Fata, Black, um, like quite even like he's built these
Jerax,
careers. He's yeah,
Nelson,
like where were these players before they played with Kuroki, right?
mm-hmm.
Mind Control, GH, where were they before they played with
Matumba
Kuroki?
Man,
Matumba,
a
like,
bunch of these guys.
yeah, they were around, but were they really relevant at all? No. Now they've become these staples or staples in Dota 2, and
He's about to do the same thing with We,
I will
maybe.
say though that as highly as I praise Kuroki, I don't think it's gonna be enough for this event. I think this team is on the verge of imploding,
Again.
because they've been. I mean, just because they kicked Matu, I don't think that necessarily solved all
So,
their problems. I do
mm-hmm.
think that long term or that short term they turn it around and they will probably have if they hadn't kicked Batu before TI, they probably would have bombed out of this event for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure, certain.
Now that they sort of like now that they've gotten Weeha, I think they can turn it around. I think top 6, it's almost like no brainer at this point, just because they're just so good as a team, and the rest is just whatever. But I feel like for anything else, like top 4, even, I don't know. I'm not sure if they can see them as a top 4 team yet. I think there's just too many question marks for me in terms of how we is ultimately going to work into this, because they can't just keep on picking Wind Ranger
Yeah,
or Ember Spirit. Like
classic.
that's what they've done up until this point, and like the problems that they had with Matoma Man aren't necessarily going to go entirely away. Like I do think that they fix a lot of that by having somebody else in that position that can change their play style, but you know, I feel like they've been together as a team for so long, and they've been through these problems for so long, for almost like an entire season, that what I mentioned earlier, right? Once you have that kind of doubt in your team, and once you have those problems with your teammates, I don't think it's going to go away. And I don't think that throughout this entire season, when they were performing badly, that they were all going to that they were all focusing on Matuma. Oh, if only we had somebody else instead of Matuma. I think that they've legitimately recognized that there's problems within this lineup, and that there's a certain ceiling, and I think they've hit that. And with Weeha, sure, they lifted it for like a little bit, but I think this TI is going to be the last one for this constellation. There's probably going to be like a core 3 sticking together, but I don't see
All right, so
4 of them sticking together.
here is my funny sort of argument as to why Liquid might be able to win. Right? Because we haven't got yet, but think about the top 6. We both don't think LG is going to go far. Like they're not going to be a contender, right? We both think Vici are chokers. I know Virtus Pro are chokers.
Yeah.
I just explained why EG is not. I don't believe in EG.
All
so
right.
realistically
so you're
speaking,
there's only one end boss.
One end boss here is Secret, and Secret didn't look that great at Epicenter. And here's another thing nobody really remembers about TI. It is rarely the best team going to TI that wins.
That's true.
Right?
Liquid.
Not only that, but the other problem is like everybody should focus on Secret because we've had an entire year to play against them. So even though they have wide, expansive like hero pools, strategies, all that, I think if you really buckle down, like these teams buckle down, they'll start figuring it out at this point, right? It's very hard to dominate an entire year as Secret did and then dominate TI. And now you go to Liquid. Well, yeah, a lot of problems with Liquid. I still think I agree with you. Like I don't think they've necessarily solved the internal aspect of the fact that like, they kind of play similar-ish, even if their style is different. But the change with We to Liquid might be enough to like change enough that it kind of throws people off kilter, and maybe Kuroki can create different drafts and different strategies off of that. Like we've only seen 1 or 2 of them, to be perfectly frank. And the fact that like there's such an informational advantage there compared to like Secret, you literally like we had an entire year of watching them play, right?
Right.
Whereas like Liquid, it's not quite the same because they just changed at the very last moment. I think you give all those factors together, I think Liquid have a decent shot at winning.
It's funny that you mentioned all of that because I don't even disagree with your reasoning. But I think the conclusion is I just draw a different conclusion out of all of that.
Secret's
You're absolutely right.
No.
No. You're absolutely right that they that too, but actually I'm not even sure they're gonna win. Like you said, the favorite is never gonna win. Like that's only once happened. That was with Alliance.
Yeah.
And that was like Alliance was literally one of the best teams. Like sort of like whatever. That's a different discussion. I think absolutely right. Liquid, they have that informational advantage. They nobody's gonna look at them. Like they have their different style. Like there's
bunch
so many
of chokers out there.
There's
Yes.
there's a bunch of chokers out there. But if anything, to me, that just makes them get to like top 4. I think even if Vici was to choke a little bit, I still think Vici wins against Liquid. Just because I think Liquid is just not good enough right now. I just don't think that
you just their base level isn't strong enough.
No, I don't think so. Because like
I think Miracle is still like one of the best players for certain.
Oh, he is, but I think And even like on the individual speaking, GH and mind control are still pretty strong too. But there's just so many things that you can't really change just because you just switch out your mid laner. Yeah, you can change a playstyle as a team, generally speaking, but it was like, there's things that players just don't get rid of, like certain habits in lane, certain habits in like rotations, certain habits of farming, those kind of things. And I think those are the things, like, even though Liquid might have an information advantage in terms of like how they draft, what kind of playstyle they're going to deploy, I think there's still a lot of information that you know about Liquid instinctively as a player, well, because you've played against them so much already, that you don't even have to learn anymore, because that's not going to change. Like, how GH is going to rotate isn't necessarily going to change. How mind control is going to rotate from his lane isn't necessarily going to change. It might. I might be wrong. It might. They might have had a really insane bootcamp where they can change their identity as a team. But ultimately, I think the Liquid is still this Liquid that we've seen before, just a different kind of coat of paint. Maybe a stronger coat of paint with Weeha, bringing like a whole
Maybe a
different element to it.
Meepo-esque
Yeah,
coat of paint. Yeah.
and I mean, we've talked about it too, how they can play so much more aggressively now, and we've seen it too. Suddenly they don't have to play around objectives anymore. But again, I think just the way that the other four players are going to play their heroes and going to play their game isn't necessarily going to drastically change. So I think it's just going to be enough to be like top four.
No.
But I mean, I think I will say that the underdog part does make me wonder if maybe there's even more in it for Liquid, because there's a very good point that them not necessarily being looked at helps them a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go to my the
Chokers.
we talked about two chokers. Let's talk about the third and potentially the greatest chokers, Virtus Pro, because here's the thing, right? You're gonna go on the tangent, but I might. So basically, Alliance might be the greatest team lineup of all time, but the problem is here's the thing about this TI, we have two of the greatest lineups of all time at this TI. Secret, obviously, and this Virtus Pro should technically be in the conversation for the greatest lineup of all time, just because of what they did last year, what they did this year. But they are fucking chokers.
They are chokers.
At TI specifically. As PPD famously said at ESL Birmingham, it's feeling hot out there. Maybe you're just going to choke again like you do every other year. Right?
It's actually so sad, because even if Virtus Pro at this event was to overcome their choking, and if they perform their best, that also then they also then have to bet on the fact that Secret doesn't show up, and that like any underdog doesn't show up, because I think VP, even at their best right now, isn't necessarily enough to win this tournament. I think they have to even go beyond that.
They have to go back to this season. VP.
Yeah, VP at this season wasn't necessarily that monster that we saw in the previous season, right? They still were super strong in this season. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like at their best, Secret was still better, and there are teams that have really high ceilings. I think TNC, Vici Gaming, even OG by some weird
in that mad scenario where they get all five of their picks, they get the right draft. Yeah. They get the right draft for some reasons.
Plus,
fucking Matt hears that Virtus Pro ruined their lives or some shit.
Plus, there's a history too with VP, OG. Matt has traditionally been really well at reading CIS teams, because he's always had he actually has a big history.
He has a big inside track on them compared to every other player.
Because he's actually played with a lot of them too. So, I honestly think that this might be the worst TI for VP to overcome that choking, because I'm not even sure that's going to help them, because they have to go beyond that. But I mean, to overcome the whole choking thing is just I mean, why would they overcome choking this year? Is there any evidence that would point to that? I mean, at this point, you're just gambling, right?
Listen, they're fucking brilliant. Just Virtus Pro squad, because if you think about the run this year, right? Basically, they're like, oh, we won the first one. Guess we're just going to chill out for the rest of the year.
I know. Sorry. I know why they're not going to choke this TI. They changed the logo. So in their mind, they can tell themselves, we're not Virtus Pro. We're like this panda knockoff version of Virtus Pro. We're Virtus Panda. We're like this knockoff version. And I don't know. I just don't see a reason why they should overcome their choking this season. There's been no indication. I mean, it's difficult to show us any indication, because they've only choked at TI and we haven't seen TI yet, right?
Yeah.
But no.
But yeah, my basic problem is like twofold. First off, like it's fine. Like I don't get very angry about Virtus Pro like that they didn't try nearly as hard this season as they did last season. Because obviously, guess what? They already qualified.
Yeah.
And literally, the only thing left this lineup has to play for is winning TI. Like they already did fucking everything else, right? But my problem with them is like I don't think they really got back to fighting shape.
Yeah, and I think this was my problem
And
with
they
them
choke.
too. Like
So
if you look at Liquid and their winning TI winning sort of like season,
mhm.
they started out really strong and then they like whatevered, and then they came back really really strong again, you know, and they closed out the season leading into TI with like really really strong wins. Virtus Pro, I mean, they kind of
Getting
showed us something. It's like, not really.
we're still top three.
Towards the end, it was like whatever. Like we're already through whatever, which I think is fair also to them because from their perspective, they were so strong the entire season before that, and it didn't yield them anything. So for them, it probably was like, all right, once we're done, let's just like pull it back and like make sure that we're chilling and
Yeah,
whatever. But like I agree with you that they probably should have tried to turn it back up again for the last two tournaments or whatever. But
yeah, like
yeah.
they just don't look as sharp as they were. So it's like I
I
don't know.
guess the
Like I
pandas,
can't
they're not
guarantee.
bears anymore.
I don't know if they can fucking be that sharp again. Like listen, if this Virtus Pro showed up like last season's Virtus Pro that wasn't TI, then yeah, I'd say I might even say they're the best team at that point. But
And
they
actually,
aren't.
and actually, it would have been fucking miraculous if they had showed up this season again and dominated everything again, which it almost looked like they were
They
gonna
were
do.
about to, but they're like, wait a second, we already qualified. Later, it's
Yeah.
like, oh fuck, fucking Virtus Pro.
Um. It's yeah. I personally find it very difficult to make a case for this pro that doesn't involve. Oh, how about you don't choke this tournament?
Yeah, can't. Nothing else to really say about that. But all right, let's go to number one, Secret. I think everybody's favorite, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a curse, right? Being the favorite.
Yeah, not only are they the favorite, but basically they've because they've won so many tournaments, they've technically played the most games of everybody, most on land games for everybody. So I think in terms of raw information, there is the most information about Secret compared to everybody else. I guess except for Liquid, who played the lineup for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But
It's certainly rough. But I still think that generally speaking, they can only really beat themselves. I think at this event, like Secrets, and I think this is what makes them sort of like a little bit scary too. Secret isn't necessarily a team that's going to overwhelm you with like strategic, for like prowess.
might, yeah,
They're not the type to, they're not the type to sort of like cheese their way into anything either. This is the type of team that just is really confident in their abilities and works really well. They have really great coordination. It almost never feels like they feel
they can play
pressured,
all
which I
styles of
think,
Dota fairly strong. So
yeah. So I want to say they can only beat themselves, but I mean, like you said, everybody knows them, everybody has seen them, everybody's gonna be after them, everybody's gonna try to counter them. So, and the favorite basically has never won TI. So for me, Secret, I kind of want to put them as my favorite, and I think it'd be stupid not to because realistically speaking, they are the favorite to win it. But
that doesn't mean I think they're going to win it. Like
that doesn't mean
I'll put it
I
this
think
way: like them versus the field, I'll take the field.
yeah, I agree.
Right? I think that's a fair way to put it. But
Uh,
even though I think they're the favorite, I think there's like some concerning things about this team. Just some. First off, three of your players aren't really battle tested on TI. Nisha for certain is just a rookie. Yabzor, yeah, he's played at TI before, but never on a contending team. So I don't really know if he'll be that great. Mid one, he's only had that one really great run with Fnatic.
hey, wasn't Yapso or Secret last season as well?
Yeah, it
At
wasn't
TI?
that good, was it?
I mean, they were top 6.
I don't think it was that like yeah, they're top six, but I don't think it was like that great of a run, all things considered.
Yeah, fair,
Like
fair,
do you
fair.
do you remember it being like a fucking awesome run? Like
It was an okay run. I mean, they had obvious flaws in their lineup with Ace and Fata at the time. Um,
But like
But
they beat VGJ Storm, Vici, like those were bad
I
teams.
still think that at least for Yopso, I mean, I wouldn't put experience as a problem for him.
Like I'll say
I
this, like
think Nisha is the only
he
really
didn't pop
bad
off the
experience.
page like Mid One did when he ran Ti.
Well, I mean, you can't really expect that from anybody.
But here's the
Mid one
thing,
had a huge fucking Ti performance in
yeah.
his
So
first
like
TI.
that's kind of how I frame it, I guess. Like he's not bad, but he's not great, as in like Mid One great. What and Mid One I've only seen that once, to be fair.
I mean, that's actually my problem with this lineup is that mid one isn't even mid one great anymore.
Yeah,
Like this season, mid one has not even been the third best player on his team. I think Nisha and Zai have been stealing the show,
Nisha, Zai, Yaps are
and
all better than him.
yeah, and that's my problem with them. Like, what happens if Nisha doesn't show up? We haven't had that question yet, really, this season, because
But I think
Secret is a
somebody's gonna
team.
figure it out. I think somebody has to figure it out
Yeah,
by this point.
I want to say, and like, what happens then? What does happen? What happens when Nisha doesn't show up? Is mid one gonna show up? He has proven previously, like last season actually too, and pretty much. I mean, when he was Fnatic, obviously too, that he can show up and he can carry things by himself. But it just kind of worries me that we haven't really seen it this season. Like,
Yeah.
he's shown brilliant plays every now and then for sure. But like, is he really going to be that god again? That one of the top three best mid laners? Can he show that performance this
Yeah.
tournament? Not sure.
Yeah. After that, like, here's the thing about Zai. I don't think anybody can really doubt him, really. But he's technically never won a TI, so I don't really know if that matters though. Like every TI run I see him, he's pretty fucking good.
See the thing, I was about to say, you're right. He has never won a TI, and with other players, it is definitely like a gripe. Like Arteezy, you bring it up because he's shown like really bad performances, but Zai has literally never been the weakest link in his teams, in any of his teams, or he has like been like bottom two player in his teams. Like he's had off performances, don't get me wrong, but he's always been like one of the best performing players in any teams he's been on, and it's the case here again. So
And
Zai to me is like one of the big cornerstones for this team.
I will say this about Zai, like in that breakup, in that basically the capitulation of Secret at TI5, I think he literally broke his back trying to carry the rest of the team. He literally broke his back trying to carry that team.
Yeah.
So like in my mind, like in the worst case scenario, Zai will be there. So it's like that's kind of how I see it for now. So I think Zai is like the most dependable of the five.
Yeah. I will actually say what I do think can happen at this event, and I think.
But here's the most worrying thing for me is Puppy.
I was about to say that too.
Go ahead then.
Yeah, Puppy tends to outdraft himself at TI. I think he gets too into like mind games and like too into himself too.
It's what makes him a fucking great captain. Fair.
It makes him a great captain, and like
but it could also be his
impressive
weakness.
It can definitely be his weakness. Like what he the play, the biggest play, literally the play, right, from TI2 happens because he, as a captain, was daring enough to just let Naga through, but like he can get overconfident. Like the reason why they lost, by the way, that finals then against IG is because he got let Naga through again because he was like, oh yeah, no, I have another solution. Like he is too prideful, I think, as a captain, and that can get into his own way. So I mean, that's the funny thing though. It's like that actually aspect is what brings him into that final in the first place, but it could also lose him that final at the very same moment, right? So it's sort of like this, sort of like on a blade's edge kind of type thing, where, or like on thin ice type of thing, where oh yeah, sure, it can get you into the grand finals, maybe even win you the tournament, but also could lose you the tournament.
Yeah, like I always like whenever I explain Puppy, like I always explain it in two different anecdotes. The first, obviously, being the famous sniper meme, where ho ho ha ha. I forget that's all I remember about sniper. But like basically, I don't ban sniper because I'm fucking cool and I'm Puppy. Like that's kind of that's his weakness, Puppy. But I also explain it in the anecdote of the TI3 finals. Literally, only Puppy could have taken Alliance to 5. Only leader in the world that could have done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he could have won the finals too, straight up. Right?
And I mean, he's also the only one that could take down the Chinese teams in at TI2. Like, Everybody in the West thought it was impossible to even contend with the Chinese teams at the time. Everybody thought that unless you bend Naga, you had no chance. And like again, like he is one of the greatest fucking minds in all of Dota that has sort of like he's. Do you know the teams that everybody deems like some of the best? He's beaten them, or at the very least pushed them to the edge, with some of the worst lineups too, or some really bad lineups too. But at the same time, it can also cost him.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah,
All right.
yeah, we'll see, I guess.
All right. Here's my last question, I guess, because I wrote a bit about this. Like between Kuroki and Puppy, who do you think's the best?
Oh, I know we've had this discussion before. It's kind of funny because it's technically an ongoing battle,
Yeah.
and I mean, whatever I say now could very likely
Change.
just change after TI. Because
Yeah, maybe it's PBD. Because if PBD wins, he's obviously the
Yeah.
best. Because if he wins with an IP, this IP, he's
yeah,
obviously
but
the best.
pretty much any which one of those three wins TI is going to be deemed the best, right?
All of a
Because they're the
sudden,
first-
one of the Keen's players like gets
Right.
injured. YAEP shows up and wins. Obviously, he's the best.
pretty much. So I think Kuroki I would probably deem the best. Because unlike Puppy, Kuroki hasn't really chosen to surround himself with the best of all the time, which is kind of funny. Even though he moved to Navi back in the day, and he was part of the team that built the secret back in the day too, right? But like Kuroki has built up so many players from the ground up, which I'm not even saying Puppy hasn't, because Puppy has. But to me, Kuroki has built like really big players in like times where it was really difficult to build players, whereas Puppy, like his biggest achievement TI was TI1, and there's TI1 is always going to have.
I'll go ahead and say,
TI1 is
actually, I think TI2 and TI3 have better achievements than TI1, even though he won that one.
What? Sorry, you broke up.
I think it's TI2 and TI3 have better achievements than
Oh yeah,
TI1.
of course.
So
like TI1 is always going to have an asterisk
Yeah.
as an achievement, right? And I think his more notable achievements, like you said, TI2, TI3, but like to me, Kuroki, I mean, first of all, he was part of that TI3 run.
Yeah.
But he's like he's built teams and he's helped teams build or become so much better than they would have been on like a really small level too, right? Mouse Sports. I mean, this Liquid lineup, he built it out of nothing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like I kind of want to say the Puppy, and this is just also because of his name, has an easier way of doing things because he can attract that mid one, he can attract that Zai, he can attract, I mean, Kuroki, right? And he can pull in.
Yeah, but he also did recognize guys like Yapzor and
No, for
Nisha
sure,
and stuff
for
like
sure.
that. So
Although I think Yapzor, I mean,
Yapzor
yeah,
was-
you're right, but
Yapzor was pretty good, but
Yapzor already played a TI before he joined Secret, right?
Yeah.
Liquid picked up what he, I mean, Kuroki
the original
again.
Liquid, he picked up like 3 of the 5 guys.
yeah, that weren't
The only one
never
that did
even-
was like Jerax. He played at TI.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true.
But that was like with an
forget about
MVP
that.
team.
Yeah, I keep
And
forgetting
there's
about the
there's like
horrible
there's
MVP
certainly
lineup.
like I remember that MVP team because I thought Jerax was the best player on it. It's like, wow, that's a surprisingly good pickup.
That's true. Yeah.
But, not a lot of people were looking at Jerax at the time. So
It's really a toss up between Kuroki and Puppy. I think there's good arguments to be made about both.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
like
What-
here's
what's-
how
what's
I
your
frame.
thought?
Yeah, here's how I frame it. Like you're talking about like their lineups, but I think it's gonna come down to their philosophies as to who's gonna be the best. Because if you look at Kuroki's philosophy about how you're supposed to win Dota, like, he basically outlines it in his Players Tribune article. He's like, in Dota, if you look at the best teams and the best players, I think he basically says everybody has a lot of heroes. Everybody's fairly skilled at the top. So what he thinks differentiates the best team from the rest is team play. And that's Kuroki, right? And you just look at his teams, his lineups, his best teams, they all kind of inhabit that, right? And you look at him as a player, him as a leader. Like I said, like I think there's a reason Miracle became so great under Kuroki, and all these other players became so great under Kuroki is because he sort of taught them, or led by example, or as he puts it, right? That kind of philosophy. But when I look, and here's the thing, like obviously, like Kuroki's obviously a great drafter and all that, but I think that's his like priority, is team play. You look at Puppy, yeah, he's got pretty good team play and all that shit, but when somebody asks him what he thinks the ultimate answer to Dota is, he's like, it's whoever gets a new thing. That's Puppy's answer, right?
Did he actually say that?
Yeah, it's a really old interview from Cybersport, who's gone now, but basically somebody asked him like, why do you think why do you think you're like the best at Dota or whatever? It was a question along those lines. He basically answers, the reason I'm the best is because if you look at Dota as a game, it shifts all the time. Like if this was
Yeah.
a real sport, then basically like the only equivalent is like somebody changes the fucking field every other month, changes the size of the nets, changes the what ball you're playing, changes if you're kicking with their feet or throwing with their hands. And in this kind of chaos, in this kind of environment, I'm the best because I find out what what the next answer is over and over and over again.
It's it's so funny that you bring that's what he said, because, or rather, it's not really funny that he brought it up, because obviously
This is like a
he would do
paraphrase.
it.
Like I don't know the exact quote, but
No, but
it's
I know,
almost
I know, I know, but like, it's it's so spot on. Obviously, I mean, obviously he'd be spot on about himself, but that TI2 run, one of the reasons they lost at finals is because he picked Nyx Assassin in that finals,
yeah.
a hero that nobody had picked at that point, and he was so sure that that hero was going to counter IG's tri lane that he picked it. And honestly, in hindsight, it should have worked, because that hero counters that lineup 100%. And afterwards, people actually did pick Nyx Assassin to counter that specific tri lane in future matches too. And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, this is actually a really good counter." But at that time, people were like, "Is he really going to pick that? Does it even make any sense there?" And like, he was ahead of his time, and that actually happens numerous times to him. And it's so funny because at that point, he trusts that over picking his team, what they've always done, and just relying on like raw team fight, right? Or like
Raw team play.
core team play, which I think does set him apart from Kuroki in that aspect. I will say that Kuroki's team fight and team play sort of like motivation, I wouldn't be surprised if it's heavily influenced by
Puppy.
Puppy though.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent a lot of time together, because even though Puppy might not have prioritized it, and he might not prioritize it in general, I do think that Puppy puts team play at
At a
its
premium.
highest, really,
Yeah.
at a premium. Because if you look at the Navi lineup from like 2012 to 2013,
It's all team
despite
play.
making changes, it's all team play. Like, the fact that they can run past tier 3 towers and still crush their opponents is because they as a team function so well that they could just do everything, and they trusted each other. Like, it's kind of crazy because nobody talks about Navi in terms of team play, because then Alliance came in with even superior team play and team fight strategies and coordination, right? Everybody looks at that Alliance lineup and says that's the pinnacle of sort of like what a team can accomplish as a team in terms of like team play, coordination, all of that, right? Because they literally function as one unit. But Navi was really close to that at some point too.
Yeah.
But again, people don't really look at that because Alliance then came in and crushed that ideology, of Navi. But it just as a side note, because I do agree with you that those two sort of like mantras sets them apart, but still, some of that is also still ingrained in Poppy.
And I will say, here's the thing though, like obviously it's hard to split them apart because they've played
Right.
together for so long, but like
Right.
in like the other aspect of like, obviously Puppy, like I said, he does value team play a lot. Kuroki also values drafting a lot. Like there's a reason he won that epicenter.
sure.
It's because he randomly pulled that axe out of his ass. Like, here's that axe.
Right.
You lose. Like, what the hell? Nobody was playing axe. Like stuff. He does that stuff too. So, but like I said, I think if like in their own words, like if you ask them like the one thing, those are the answers they gave out.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious because I don't actually know who's gonna win this out. Like win it out between the two of them, and might not even be the two of them. Like there are a few other guys in that mix. Like,
And like the funny part about the whole discussion, I mean, and I think it's a really great discussion, by the way, like the whole topic of who was the better captain, who whatever. It's so weird because that answer will change over time so much.
mm-hmm.
You know, as how we talked already about, like, you know, Kuroki having that weird period where the community was sort of like against him. If you had asked that question at that time, people wouldn't even have considered Kuroki in the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, actual players and actual, you know, analysts would have, but in the community, people wouldn't have blinked. They would have immediately said Puppy. After Kuroki wins TI, everybody would blink, not even blink, immediately said Kuroki. I think Dota as a game is just so cool because right now we're in a period where we have so many people in contention for this. As you mentioned, PPD is technically also in contention for the greatest captain of all time.
Shall we, if he ever unretires for an eighth time?
I doubt it, but yeah, we are currently in this sort of like period where we can see all of these teams and these players sort of compete at this level consistently against one another, and we were sort of like writing that history right now. So it's cool. It's kind of like it's. I mean, not really like in CS, but you know how like Liquid now has their own era right now, and how probably if they keep it up for another year, we're then going to talk about it, whether or not Liquid is going to be the best of all time. But yeah, I'm excited. Like honestly, and I think this is my question for you then. Like, I don't even know who to pick as like my actual favorite for this title. Because I've already told you.
No,
I mean,
we already know who the favorite is. Who do you think is going to win? That's different.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who do we think is going to win? Like, I don't even know who to pick right now because I think there's legitimate reasons against pretty much any of these teams.
Yeah.
For these teams, I mean, there's some. I might honestly go with Vici. I think Vici.
You want to believe in the chokers? Yeah, how many times do you fall for this trap?
I kind of want to. I don't know. It's it looks tempting.
Listen, among the three chokers, obviously, I think Vici is the best of the three. So yeah, I guess in that sense, I think I'd go with Liquid just because of all the things I outlined. I don't believe in the chokers,
right.
And I think they basically got to beat one, and maybe the informational advantage is enough, but like, it's hard, isn't it? Like, But yeah, I think I'll go ahead and say I think it's going to be out of those. I think it's going to be. I think there's only three real runners in this race: Secret, Liquid, and Vici.
I agree. Yeah. But of course, you know,
now
that we say that and now that we agree on that, next week suddenly, I don't know, like Fnatic's gonna like stump everybody and they're gonna like crush it, and I don't know. TI has its own rules, which is so
if
cool.
OG can win, literally anybody can win, except Infamous.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And just to tie this back to the discussion we had at the very beginning, the fact that we can't even like talk about like this, like as to like who's gonna come out on top, speaks to this format as well. Like, it's just so cool that these teams can evolve throughout like this 2 weeks of like intense Dota, because they play so many games, they play against so many other teams. Whereas in like other titles, obviously like CS, it's just, oh, you play 3 games and you're in the semifinals. Woohoo!
Yeah, totally get what you mean. Like, I guess it is also fair to say like CS is a different game. Like,
of
there's
course,
way less changes relative to Dota, but
it's a totally different game, and there's like not a lot of like, the meta doesn't evolve as drastically within the tournament as it does in Dota. Dota, like literally, we can go into the game thinking Darkseer is the best hero, and then at the end of the day, nobody will pick him anymore after the group stage because we've suddenly realized that Axe is the best hero. It was
trash all along.
Yeah, exactly. It's so crazy, and this is why I love TI. Like, we're all going, like, we're making this preview right now. Everything we're saying right now could be completely wrong. Yeah. And at the end of the group stage, we'd look back on the group stage and be like, huh, it kind of makes sense the way it played out, because this happened and this happened and then this happened, and yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, like the only thing that doesn't make sense in retrospect is the OG run.
Well, yeah, that still doesn't make any sense, but you know, well, it kind of does actually, but it's just still so surreal.
Like, I don't know if you ever read that interview, but basically I was like explaining to fucking Mad why his run out of the group stage, because that was when we had an interview with him. I was explaining to him, like, basically you had like 10 different things that had to go right for you to get out of the group stage in like top 2. It's like yeah, I guess that was a lot of crazy shit that happened. Like, because basically I'm like, so listen to me, fucking Mad, because I wanted to explain. Like, here's a secret, I guess. If you're going to interview somebody that a lot of people are missing, you need to set up the context of everything that happened for. So, like, it starts pinging off all the factors. Like, oh, shit, that did happen. Yeah, that did happen. That happened. Right. Basically, like, here's how I explained it to him. I don't know if I wrote down the entire question. It was like, fucking Mad, listen to me for a second, because I'm going to explain to you how it looked like from the outside. Basically, Fly left you at the worst possible time, right? And you were missing a player. And so, basically, you had to stand in and change your role again. No Tail had to change his role from captain, 2 roles, captain, and another player. Then you had to search for 2 more players, and one of the players you got is a fucking rookie who's never played before at the top level, and the other player you got was Anna, who also had to change roles to another role, not even to his old carry role, to a mid lane role. Or
and who hasn't
whatever.
even played competitively for like a whole year.
And you're trying to tell me it was like, and now you're here. It's like you gotta explain that to me. It's like, yeah, I guess that was a lot of different shit that happened. Like there's no way in retrospect that even makes sense. I was like 8 different things.
It's so no, it's absolutely crazy. And like again, like this is why I think we both agree that a run like OG will never happen in the history of Dota again.
Yeah.
Maybe if TI goes to like TI 208, then sure. I mean, in 208 iterations, sure, we'll see another like underdog run like OG's maybe. But it's just that was just a once in a lifetime run. And this is why there's like 8 documentaries about it. You know? It's,
Yeah, like listen, I mock them all the time, but I can't even blame them. Of course you're gonna rewatch that shit like 50
I milk
percent
that
of your
story.
life.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. I'd milk that story. Like, why not? It's literally the. I mean, even in like all of sports, if you take like traditional sports, into how what? Well, how has it? I think when does this happen? Right?
This is the most ludicrous of all the
Yeah.
esports stories I've heard.
And this happened a year ago. We're still dumbfounded about it. That's just how crazy it is.
It was like the most bullshit of all of them.
Yeah.
It's fucking
All
crazy.
right.
But yeah.
You know what? Let's just pick 2 teams that are definitely going to drop out in the group stage.
I mean, I already picked
obviously
all of
we're
them,
both
but
picking
all right, pick good
but, you know.
teams. You can't pick the bad teams.
All right. You want to pick good teams that are going to drop out of the group stage. Bottom 2, bottom 1, in every group.
Oh, the group stage. Okay,
Yeah,
no,
that's
that's different because I don't think any of the
Yeah.
good teams will drop out.
All right. Infamous, we both agree, is probably
I
going to
think
be.
Infinite and Mineski are the obvious ones, aren't
All
they?
right. All right. All right. All right. Let's pick good teams that are going to drop out in the bottom 4. Doesn't even have to be 4 teams. We can just pick like 2 teams that are just going to drop out
All right.
early. And it can't be Fnatic because Fnatic is an easy pick.
Yeah,
anymore.
obviously Fnatic cannot be counted. And you know what? Don't count Keen either. I don't like. I
Yeah.
feel like Keen is pretty obvious.
I think LGD and OG. I think LGD can actually drop out in the bottom 4, in the bottom 4.
I'm gonna go bold. I'll go with
VP.
Alliance and EG, the Alex Garfield combo.
Oh, all right, the Alex Garfield combo. Yeah, no, I mean I wouldn't be surprised. Alliance, I'm definitely not surprised. EG, I mean,
EG is pretty bold.
yeah, EG's a bold.
But like I said, I explained all the factors. Like it's so ripe, it's possible. But hopefully
sure.
I'm wrong because I actually do like a lot of their players. I think
of course, and I mean, EG when they're at the best, they play some great Dota.
Yeah,
like
they
and
do.
like you seeing Arteezy play great Dota is just really cool because he actually
he's like one of those players
Yeah,
that does like I make fun of him a lot, but he does deserve a great TI performance at least once in his life.
for sure. I mean, he even deserves a title, not necessarily TI, but like a title,
A major title.
a major title.
Yeah. All right. Here's my last question. Who's gonna? Actually, I don't know if it's necessarily part of TI. Who's the best? Who are the best players of this year in TI? Who's gonna be the MVP?
You mean in the season?
Yeah, this season. Who are the best players?
The best players in this season, Nisha, Arteezy, and Ori.
Just all carry players.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, I guess I would add Zai to that too, obviously, and if I had to add one more to just make it like a top 5, I'd probably add FY. Yeah.
All right. I'll take Ori, Zai, FY. Maybe I would take Nisha after all. Like it's hard for me to pick Nisha just because he's on the best team, and and he has the best captain, and he's like a bunch of good players around him.
That's fair. But I do think he was the best player in this team.
Yeah, he was. Actually, no, I think Zai was the best player on this team. I think Zai is better.
That's fair. That's fair.
This is why I picked Zai first. Maybe I'd still pick Miracle. I think I'd probably take Miracle.
It's bold. That's a bold pick.
That's pretty crazy. I think. But I think he did enough for. I don't know. The problem with Miracle is like he missed like a quarter of the year. I guess I can't take him. I'll take Arteezy then. I think Arteezy's better.
Yeah.
I
think Arteezy actually has Arteezy to me has actually been the best carry player.
He's actually kind of underrated in a sense. But yeah, I'll take Arteezy. I guess
It
Yeah, I
doesn't
guess
help that he's always part of these memes, like, oh, I'm
yeah.
stuck on a fucking cliff. Like,
Like I really want to take like no one, but like I can't really take him just because like Virtus Pro didn't try that hard. So I guess I'll go with Nisha.
yeah. To me, Virtus Pro just really did the bare minimum. Like they exploded at the beginning of the season. And just like, yeah, well,
I guess we
kind
ended
of
up with
did
the
it.
same 5, but I will say the other guy I was thinking of was Ori. Wait, did I pick Ori? I meant Paparazzi as the VG player I wanted in the top 5.
Right.
Because I think Paparazzi is better than Ori, but Ori was pretty close too.
I mean, you could technically put both of them too.
Basically the same person.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, who do you think is? All right, I guess who'd be your MVP then?
Of the season, TI
No,
excluded?
for TI. Because remember not last year, I think we did it with Knoxville, and I basically said I thought maybe was going to be the MVP
Oh, right.
because
Right.
I specifically said I thought LGD was going to win. If LGD wins, the guy who's going to make it happen is maybe. I was this close. I was like a centimeter off.
Let's go with Paparazzi then, because I think Vici is gonna win.
All right, and I'm gonna go with Miracle because I think like the odds are decent in Liquids.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, even if Liquid doesn't win, but they end up like being top 3, Miracle still has a very good, like, likely a good claim on like MVP because he's just he's the best player in the world.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. That about does it. Anything else you want to add before we get off?
No, I'm good. I look forward to this TI. Like, this group stage is gonna be insane.
Cool. All right. I have one more article or 2 more articles about Dota coming up before I kicked out of Upcomer. One of those just
an Upcomer.
yeah. Last 2 basically. One of those like I basically got the 5 best players by role for this season. And the other one is basically like the one I do every year. Is like I just compare a bunch of Dota2 teams to CS:GO teams, see how that works out. All right. That's about it. See you guys later.